Hey everyone, welcome to the Horror Show. I'm Cecil Laird.
Fuego here.
Marcia Parker.
And after reviewing the first two Leatherface movies, now we can finally get to our Patreon request from Russell Jardine from a while back, but we're here to talk about Leatherface, Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 3, and we're going to kind of double this up because I recently acquired the Leatherface comic books. It's a 4-issue series, which also happens to be a adaptation of this movie, but with some differences. So we weren't going to review this except for the differences, so we'll just touch on them at the end. So we are going to do this review like we normally do. We'll talk about the overall thoughts, the story, the acting, the effects, of course the effects, all that good stuff in turn. And I will say that I was excited to watch this movie because while I remember 1 and 2 very well, I did not remember 3 hardly at all.
Same.
And after watching it, I can see why. It is a very substandard, uninteresting entry into the franchise, in my opinion. It's literally just them in the woods with Leatherface stalking them with until it gets to the house again, like every Texas Chainsaw movie. So I was ultimately not impressed with this one on the rewatch. I am not a huge fan of Leatherface. Part 3. Fuego?
Yeah, this is also one that I did not... I don't know if I've ever watched it, actually. Maybe seen bits and pieces on TV or something before, but never in its full, unrated, and just uninteresting lack of glory, honestly. It's by the books in every way, shape, and form, and it's a travesty because this is when New Line had, like, the big 3. They had Leatherface, they had Jason, and they had Freddy all at the same time in the early 90s, and this one just... And it's so dimly lit, and I mean, Ken Foree's wasted in it, and I mean, not that interesting of a character, and so, yeah, it just didn't feel like anything unique for the series, honestly, in my estimation. So.
That's funny, because I loved it.
Oh, okay.
That's why we wanted to do all of us here.
I actually, I don't know, maybe it felt a little bit more back to the roots to the first one than the second one. I thought it was like a good mix of the first and second one because yeah, you are a little bit more back to the house, but it's not as like out of the box as the second one got, like really weird.
Not as goofy as the second one, obviously.
Yeah, it wasn't very 80s and it wasn't as solid as the 70s version, but I thought it was a good mix. And I love like the cameos from Lord of the Rings guy and
Viggo Mortensen. That wasn't a cameo. That was a legitimate role.
Well, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Like it was
it's
a
not
big
huge
role, but I mean,
he's so young.
I just loved his. I was like, oh my god, I forgot he was in this. This is amazing, and I loved his character. I loved Ken. I was like, oh my god, it's the same. Like, now his connection to the Rob Zombie Devil Rejects like situation actually made a lot of sense. Because, well, not that he wouldn't make sense in that movie, but it actually, like, to me, I'm like, okay, because I always felt like Rob Zombie's House of Thousands of Corpses and that was really connected to this storyline.
Inspiration from there.
Yeah, so I loved it because I loved making that connection between them. I thought he was fantastic. I mean, there was parts of it that you're like, okay, but at the same time, it's Leatherface. So there's not a lot you can really do with Leatherface except for like, okay, he's going to have the chainsaw. He's going to be chasing you with the chainsaw. He's going to be going through the woods. He's going to chase you through the house. Whatever. There's not a lot. But there was a lot of like cool explosives and, I don't know, fun gunfighting and a lot of redneck creeps. I don't know.
Not super, super violent, though. I mean, that's the
Well,
one thing. There's one kill in particular that's fairly violent. And I don't know.
The underwater chainsaw was a little,
It's
a little much, but I still enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's gas powered. It doesn't need to have electric stuff.
I don't think that'll work, but I don't know. I've never tried before.
I don't know.
So let's get into the story. The story is. It starts off with the mass grave from part 2 kind of being found, and the family has moved, and even though most of the family dies in every movie, there's still a full family by the time the next movie rolls around. So this one is a dude that is just a crazy twitchy dude that runs a gas station. It's Viggo Mortensen, who starts off looking like a good guy but is actually involved with the family. And then there's a big woman they call Mama or something like that, and there's a dude with a hook that runs the tow truck, and so it's a piece of work. it's a gathering of characters that are all disjointed. They don't even feel like a real family. It's just like, oh, we need wacky people to comprise this horrible family, and so they just start pulling characters out of thin air rather than creating a family, in my opinion, that felt like they gelled. So the movie actually starts off with a victim of Leatherface's escaping into the woods, and then we don't really see what happens, and it cuts to a couple on a long road trip across the country when they run afoul of this gas station with a crazy attendant and techs who end up giving them directions to the place where the family is now hunting. And they crash off the side of the road and are then being chased by the Sawyer family. You know, it's that's the long and short of the story. And I just was unimpressed by it. I didn't think it was interesting. I didn't get attached to any of the characters, especially the two main ones. I just wasn't into this one for some reason. Fuego?
Yeah, I thought Kate Hodgson, something like that. Anyway, she plays our lead, and she's our final girl, and she's solid enough. The way but she's written very just kind of by the books once again. Ken Foray is the guy out foraging in the woods who kind of comes along the way to help them when he sees the predicament that's going down. I guess the distinction with this is they had a kid into the mix, and so I don't know if they're going for kind of the poltergeist type, and you know, like
there's a kid
kinda,
part of the Sawyer family now.
This young little blonde girl, and
not even that creepy.
Yeah, and I don't know how much they meant her to be, but they do make her gray area for a little bit. I don't know. I thought Vigo's character was written in an interesting way with like the twist in his little arc and whatnot, but I mean, it's so much of it just has. It's the beats we've seen before, and you've got being held captive at the house and then escapes out into the swamps and stuff, and I don't know. I'll save the swamp aspect for just how it was lit and shot and everything, because I felt like it was just so dark and just kind of boring to look at for that regard. But yeah, just not that interesting to me. I don't know. There's not really much else I can elaborate on because you kind of said everything that happens, and
well, yeah, it's your opinion on the story though.
Truly, yeah. It was just very boringly written. Unfortunately, I felt like it was just like a cliff notes of sorts of the first film, kind of redone, and yeah, that's about it.
Marcia.
So.
Yeah, I think that it wasn't much of a story because it is the same story, but that's what you're gonna get when you get Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Leatherface. That is its points every single time, and it's about the hunt, it's about the kills, it's about how twisted the family is, and it does make.
You're looking at yourself, and I'm like, your eye line.
Talking. So anyway, I mean, there's not much to say about this story because yes, it is the same story, but I still enjoyed it for the fact that I was watching for what I was watching for, and I was watching for the kills, I was watching for the hunt, and just the different ways that they took the family down. And yeah, I thought the girl, I saw what they were trying to do. They were with the little girl was just trying to bring some sort of creep factor and showing that they're just inbreeding with themselves and creating this horror family of disaster and cannibalism and just kind of spreading that and continuing down the line. But it didn't really sit because the actress wasn't that great and they didn't really stick to it very much. They just even at the end when she sees somebody like die, she's just like, whatever, I'm gonna go play with my skeleton doll. Like it wasn't well thought out. I don't know, I liked it still because it was simple. It wasn't like I don't have to think about it, and I mean it wasn't jump scare heavy. It was just, all right, how are these people going to die today? So I enjoyed it for that.
Well, after they tried to expand the world so much in the second one with going out and being at the radio station and the park and all these different places, this one was more back to basics.
Yeah, I felt like they kind of scrapped that idea when they got to this.
Well, let's talk about the effects. They were okay when we got them. They were fine. It's still appropriately creepy Texas Chainsaw sort of stuff. The kills in the comic were ironically a lot more graphic.
Way more
graphic. But they still were pretty good in the movie itself. So I was entertained by the effects. We get the introduction of the beautiful golden saw with the Saw's family on the blade.
Yeah.
That was neat. But I don't know. What did you guys think of the effects?
I mean, once again, I wanted more gore, honestly, and there's only really 2 kills, I think, that kind of showed it. Interestingly enough, the fate of the girl at the beginning of the movie, you find out what happens in the comic book, which is kind of fun.
Well, you find out what happens in this, too, in the movie.
Yeah, I guess you do.
Yeah, because Ken Foray is off on the side, and he's like, he hears it, and he's like, oh, damn. He didn't save her. But it happens off screen.
Yeah, as opposed to them actually showing it transpire.
Well, they do show, the blade, the saw going in, and they show her going, ah! but they don't actually show the blade going.
And then, the illustrations are disgusting in the comic book, and that's a good thing, actually. I loved the set design of the house. I thought that was once again done in a creepy manner, but it was really just the lighting, especially of all the stuff on the swamp soundstage place that just, it was so dark and just murky, and I know that's how it's supposed to look, but
it's
I know, but I feel like they could have lit it just a little bit better so
Nobody's
you could see.
carrying around lanterns in the swamp.
True. It's just the moonlight, so what are you going to do? But I don't know. I thought that entire sequence could have just been, I don't know, set up a little bit more interesting.
Yeah.
But that's just me, so.
Yeah, I agree. Like, the swamp was just another location that they could bring in because it's surrounding, again, the gas station and then the house, and now they're in the woods, and how do we break up the woods and find something interesting to do? And I mean, I thought that there had to be some way to tie in the swamp because they brought a lot of attention to it, and it was a little over the top, and it was a little dark. You couldn't really tell a lot of what was happening, but I don't know. I just thought it was just a movie I could just enjoy for what it was, and I think that's
Marcia's super forgiving here.
I'm being super forgiving of it because I wasn't expecting a lot from it.
Yeah.
Well, let's dive into the comics real quick. And then we'll close it out. Marcia, you can just stay there so you can kind of see what's on the inside. But to give proper credit,
look at the artwork.
The actual book was written by Mort Castle. The story was by Mort Castle. The original screenplay was David Shaw. Pencils are by Kirk Jarvinen, and the inker is Jeff Austin. Colors by Suzanne Deschnick and Neil Trace. So it's pretty crazy, Marcia. If you look at it, I mean, it's pretty detailed artwork, so I'll kind of show everyone the hammer blow to the head there, popping the brains out right up front, really kind of
and you see
sets
him just
the standard,
making a mask out of her like right away.
So this is the people discovering the mass grave, so it's very ultra detailed, awesome artwork.
It reminds me of something I'd seen like Heavy Metal magazine or something.
Yeah, I mean it's literally the same story, except the characters look a little bit different, and the gas station attendant has an eye patch.
Yeah.
But everything's pretty much the same, including the interactions with Tex, and it's not too bad. So let me get to the more interesting stuff here.
And I think they switch artists after the first issue, if I'm not mistaken, because it looks a little bit different.
It's Castle. It's Castle through it. Well, no, Castle was Shaw was the writer. Castle was the writer. What I forgot what the writer was in that one. See, this is cover and story art by Guy Burwell. Yeah, so that is a little bit different. Fuego, you're right. So now you can see that everything has a much. Yeah, you're right. It is a different artist. Yeah. So it's a much more painted art style in this one. So the dude's almost got lipstick on him and stuff. The coloring's a little bit weird from here, but it becomes a little bit more Sam Keith-ish.
Okay.
And less less straight up gory like the first one, but there are some pretty cool sequences. I mean, look at the artwork on that's pretty freaking dope as far as comic book art goes. So, I mean, everything plays out pretty the same, except there are some kills that are a little bit different. And one of the big ones comes towards the end. I'm just trying to make sure I can show the real interesting stuff. So here's a nice good kill for you guys by Leatherface, where he saws the girl in half that we don't actually see in the movie get killed. So that's what he does to her. But the biggest thing is at the end of the movie.
I was going to ask, because it's been a few weeks since I've watched it. I was trying to remember, did they have that extensive musical sequence where Hookman is romping around in the truck with Leatherface, and some of those cassette tapes that they stole, he starts throwing them all on.
I don't remember that.
And they're rocking out in the truck. Yeah, that's a bit. There's like more character development,
scenes.
And there's also a lot of internal dialogue of Leatherface's thoughts, where it's just written from his perspective, and it's like thought bubble type stuff, but it's very simpleton, kind of just how modestly his brain works and stuff.
And so we have the little girl and the family and stuff like that.
The skull doll.
Yeah, so she's got her little skull doll there, and it's again, the artwork becomes very painterly and everything, and it's kind of strange, but it's effective for some points, like this room full of skulls on the right there. It's pretty cool stuff. So it's interesting, but the biggest difference, Fuego, is towards the end with what happens with Ken Foree. So why don't you go ahead tell him the difference there.
Should I spoil the difference then?
Go ahead. We're going to spoil
the
end. I mean, Leatherface is an old movie.
Book.
So.
Yeah. So in the film, there's a little confrontation in the swamp at the end with Leatherface and Ken Foree's character. And in the original cut of the film, he survives, if I'm not mistaken. Although I only watched the uncut version. I didn't watch the theatrical. I don't know if there's differing...
No, I think he survives in both.
He survives in both. But there is a deleted scene where he does indeed get killed by Leatherface instead of surviving. And he gets killed in the comic book. He gets all sawed the hell up, and
I'll get to it. Hang on. Let me get there.
Sorry. But that's really the biggest difference, aside from, honestly, a little bit of additional character development. Just more of the internalized, just what's going on through Leatherface's head with how some of it's written. It's actually, I must say, I enjoyed the comic more than I did the movie.
Yeah, right here he gets his head sawn all the way off by Leatherface there. So yeah, Ken Foree's character does not survive in the alternate version of the movie, but there is still the stupid chainsaw stuff in the swamp at the end. The biggest difference, though, and what's interesting, is at the end the girl escapes on foot into the desert, and then the cop car that has Leatherface, the little girl, and the surviving grandpa. And they just leave her because they basically know she's going to die in the desert. So she doesn't really survive either in the comic book. So they do some different stuff, and it's kind of interesting, but it wasn't really worth a full separate review, you guys. So we wanted to just kind of throw it in this review.
Hence the condensing.
Exactly. So thank you for bearing with us, Marcia. But why don't you guys let us know in the comments down below, what do you think of Leatherface, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3? Have you read the comics? Are you interested to get them now that you see that it's a little bit different and you see the artwork, although the artwork for one was way better than the artwork for the other three?
Oh, you thought so? You like that?
I liked it way better, because it's a lot more in the vein of Leatherface, a lot more down and dirty.
I get you there.
Crisp painterly stuff didn't really work as well for me, but it was still interesting. So let us know in the comments down below what you guys thought. If you enjoyed the video, click that like button and subscribe if you want to see more videos like it. If you want to be a patron and request a movie like this for us to review, the link is in that description box as well. Until next time, though, I've been Cecil Laird.
Gracias, Jaime, and Fuego.
I'm Marcia.
And remember, stay scared.